think most of you know me, but if you don't, I'm Emma Bowley, and we live here on the air park. We've got a small flying school, and we've been here for about 5 years. But just some background on me. I'm a Mexican, so I was born in Mornington, Victoria. So everyone calls me a Mexican. So my family was not in aviation at all. No one was interested, although I do vaguely remember Mum having a couple of gliding lessons when we were about 10 or 11. But she never really talked about it, so we didn't get any interest in that. I started uni in Melbourne at RMIT. I started to do food science and technology, but I always wanted to do pharmacy or wine. I did do some tests for the Air Force, which was interesting because I still wasn't interested in flying. But a friend and myself went up to Melbourne and sat the exams, but when they saw that my preference was pharmacy, which they don't do at ADFA, they just told me to go and do the course myself and then come back later. But anyway, I decided to pursue wine, but couldn't get into the course, couldn't afford to go, so after 1 year I became a professional jockey and paid my way through Charles Sturt University to do winemaking. So that took me 6 years part-time, and then went full-time into the wine industry. I started at Orlando Wines in Griffith, and I spent 6 months there for vintage and the other 6 months down in the Barossa at Jacobs Creek, their main processing facility down there. And doing that was one way, and why I could afford to get my pilot's licence too, having that winemaking job. Through another winemaker, I met an ag pilot, and he decided that he'd take me for a fly one day in the Cessna 172. He took me out over the hills, and I just absolutely adored it. And so the next weekend, they had trial introductory flights at the Griffith Air Club, and so I went out there and did one trial introductory flight, signed up for lessons, and went into it full on. And then later that, I think I'd gone solo by then. I had a weekend where I had nothing to do, so I thought I'll go and visit Mick, the ag pilot. He was down at Deniliquin doing some super spreading. And when I got down there, I went into the office and asked where he was, and they said, oh, he's out spreading, but he's had a magneto problem, had to park the plane in the paddock, and he's coming back in the truck, and he'll be about 3 hours. And so while I was waiting for him, I heard this other plane coming in that sounded really, really sick. And the pilot of that plane was Guy.
And he still sounds sick.
And this was why it wasn't running very well. So it was what was the plane?
Thrush, 400-gallon thrush.
Yeah.
That's out of a Pratt.
Rattle around. So that's why it wasn't running very well. And it was nice of the engineers to save it for us. So yeah, we sat up all night that night talking about vineyards and wine because Guy was interested in vineyards and things like that, and that's how we met. Yes, right. His parents had a vineyard, so he knew what he was talking about. Yeah, a little hobby one. So then I went back and did vintage. Couldn't do much flying during vintage because I was working too long because my other winemaker decided he couldn't make any decisions without me. So Guy rang me up well into the vintage. He said I didn't remember who he was. But I did, and then so we ended up going out, and every time he was flying past an aeroplane I'd jump in and we'd head off to see his parents or something, go to Yukon for the weekend. So yeah, that's how we met. And he had a BD4, we still got it actually. We don't fly it much anymore, and it's a tail wheel version. So I did some navigating with him and decided I better get my tail wheel and constant speed endorsement. So I did my GFPT in a super decathlon. Had a whole week of crosswinds. So we ended up going out to a private strip that was actually into wind, so I got to land into wind because we weren't using the cross strip at Griffith at the time. But in the end, did my GFPT in that, and when we were on board we went and did a few areas, but I didn't do any aerobatic endorsement. And then I got made redundant from the winery, and I thought I had the car for a month and I had a month to get organised. So I thought, well, I'll finish my licence, and Guy bought the BD4 down for me. So we spent a few days on that and then sent me solo in that. And then I finished off my licence later on, a couple of weeks later, but the day before that we had a flying competition at Griffith. And I didn't read the POH too well and didn't realise that with full fuel she can be overweight, a little bit anyway. And I tried to do a spot landing and landed a bit high. And one of the undercarriage legs slowly gave way, very slowly. We went nice sailing down the grass, just slowly getting lower and lower on one side. And I turned the engine off. I blamed my instructor. I said he was too fat. Went down on his side. And yeah, so we slowly came to a stop, but the prop was still spinning, so I ended up with a bent prop as well, which was unfortunate. So that foiled that plan of having the BD4 to fly up, because Guy was in Walgett at the time. So I ended up just had to catch a jet to get up there. And, we stayed up there for a while because Guy was doing summers up there, and they had the wings presentation for Griffith, so hired an archer from Narrabri and flew that down to Griffith to the wings presentation, which was pretty cool because I think I was the only student that actually flew in to get their wings, so that was a bit of fun. After that we moved to Jamestown. Well, Guy was already in Jamestown but doing summers up north, so Jamestown's in South Australia. It's about the same latitude as here, it's just due west, and similar climate as well. The club there had a very old 172, Delta Oscar Victor, so I used to fly her around a bit, but she didn't have any instruments or anything like that. And I'd take her to Walgett in the summer so that I had a plane up there. And Guy showed me how to go into a few of the strips on the properties there, so that was a lot of fun. And coming back from Walgett one day, I left about 9 in the morning and I had to go Cobar, Broken Hill, Jamestown, because it only had the small tanks and I couldn't make Broken Hill and then Jamestown, so I had to do 2 fuel stops. And I stopped at Cobar to get fuel, went to Lou, got all organised, got back up in the air, and I was about Wilcannia, and Guy called me up. I mean, he was in the BD4, he could do it in one hop. So he sailed on past me at Wilcannia, and I still had to go to Broken Hill. And I didn't realise at the time that I wasn't very well, and suddenly realised overhead Wilcannia that I had to go to Lou, and I had to go fast because I was in a lot of pain. So I'm trying to fly the plane, trying to grab something out of the back seat to sit on, and it was all ended up facing the different direction and lost height and everything. And then I had to get out of the plane at Broken Hill and refuel it. So I just tied a jump around the waist. Hope no one noticed. But that was really interesting. I was so surprised that you couldn't let go, even though I had it trimmed and everything. Any time I looked away, she'd change heading or whatever. And as I said, she only had a compass, no DG. And so it was a long trip back. It took me about 8 hours, and Guy would take you about 3.
No more than what, 4.5, isn't it?
Yeah,
4.
yeah.
It was windy.
Yeah. I used to take that aircraft to Waikeridge for 100 hourlies from Jamestown, and a friend of mine went over. He wasn't current at the time, I don't think, so he just came for the ride. And we got to Waikeridge and they pulled the wheel off or something, and they didn't have a part. And of course they couldn't put it back together. So here we were in Waikeridge, had to get back to Jamestown. So the engineer dropped us at Morgan. There's a ferry at Morgan. So we jumped on the ferry, and the guy I was with is a lovely fellow, can talk to anybody. By the time we got off the ferry on the other side of the river, we had a lift to Jamestown in a ute, but we didn't get very far. We got about 5 k's out the road and hit a kangaroo. So we had a very slow trip to Jamestown in the car, damaged by a kangaroo with the headlights pointing all over the place. It was a long trip home. While I was in Jamestown, I did help Guy. He was flying ag there as well in the winter, doing all the winter crops. And so I used to drive the loader truck for super, and not much super, mainly urea. And it was a big old truck. It was very old, very hard to drive, take me forever to get anywhere. And usually if we got there, we'd just leave it there and I'd jump in the ag plane with Guy, cuddled up nice and close, and fly back home. So I didn't have to drive it backwards and forwards all the time. did do some, I did help a little bit down on the York Peninsula, loading with fungicides and that, but Guy didn't like me doing any of that sort of stuff, so I think I only did it for 1 or 2 days. And that was an interesting trip too, because I just got a new mixed trailer. It was huge, held 3,000 litres, and every time I turned the indicator on, the brakes would come on the trailer.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, what is going on? So I soon learned not to use the indicators. It must have been hooked up wrong to the brakes. When we're in Walgett, I marked there, so they do a lot of flying at night, not so much now, but when we first met they used to do a lot at night time because it's cooler. And one night they didn't have a marker at a place called Lochinvar, so I headed down with the mixer, and I had a ute and he used to put lights out, and Guy wasn't flying that place that night, I was doing it for another pilot. And so you'd go out in the ute and you'd mark just the ends of the paddock, because they had the GPS to line them up left and right, but they couldn't see the end, start and end of the paddock, so you put lights out. And yeah, I had to keep a paddock or 2 ahead of the pilot, and I only had 3 sets of lights. So I'd put the lights out and then rush back, take him off the one he'd done, take him over to the next one, and just do that all night. So I'm flying around this property in this ute that I'd never seen in the daylight. I got there in the dark, and then the sun came up in the morning and I nearly freaked. I had been flying down these, what I thought were roads, but they're actually the side of the drain. So it was really deep, and so when the sun came up, I'm doing 40 to go pick up the lights, and it really scared me. So that was interesting. Luckily, I only had to do it one night. Yeah, I missed that one. When I was doing my NAVs, I did a solo nav into Canberra, and I called my instructor when I got to Canberra to say, yep, all here, good, no problems. And he said, well, there's a problem here, there's a dust storm. He said, you might be able to get back if we go south. So I came up out of Canberra, got out of control and looked south and went, no, I can't see south at all. I could see Cootamundra, so I diverted to Cootamundra, and when I got to Cootamundra I could see Temora. So I thought, I'll go to Temora, I've never been here before. And so I came in, I'm downwind getting thrown around like a cork, big roll clouds just out there. And the Dragonfly was doing practice. And I landed just as he did a low pass up. So I landed on 1.8 and he did a low pass up 3.6. So this Dragonfly going straight over the top of me. And I pulled up out here, and Rob and a few other people were in the Aero Club, and they raced out. They had tie downs ready. They heard this plane coming in, so they raced out, tied it down for me, and sat in the Aero Club and watched the dust storm go past. And I'm not sure who was flying the Dragonfly at the time, but he actually came over and talked to me. And he was a bit surprised when he found out I was on a solo nerve. So
when was that? How long ago was that?
99.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and I haven't seen that pilot again, so I don't know who it was. Someone before.
Not coming back here.
That's right. Yeah.
Who's that, Travis?
I think it was in 2000, I hired the 182 from Walgett, and I was doing a big flight. I took Guy back to Jamestown via Mildura, and then I flew down to Cobden and picked up my mum. I stayed the night there and picked up mum, and then flew her to Tyab. And when I landed in Tyab, we were going for Christmas. Someone came out from the Aero Club there and said, oh, do you know, have you seen the latest ADs? And I said, no, I hadn't. And she said, oh, well, there's a fuel, the fuel's bad, or in Mobile, or wherever it was. Have you got fuel anywhere? And I said, yeah, I've got fuel at Mildura. And yeah, Mildura was one of them. So here I was in Tyab, and went over to the old aeroplane company, Judy Pays, and they knew what was going on. And I said, can you possibly do the AD to get me airborne, which was just change the filter and just check the filter and put a new filter in, put Shell fuel in, so I could get, they put enough in to get me to Moorabbin. And because that's a gap, I'd only been into parafuel before, so it wasn't too bad. So I get in there and they say, I called up at Karen there on the way in, and they said, oh, you're number one for whichever runway. And I looked at the fuel gauge and I'm like, I'm glad I'm number one. They certainly gave me just enough fuel to get to Moorabbin. So as I'm landing, I'm asking for taxi guidance to the Shell Bowser, or I wasn't going to get there. But I got there and went back out too tired and then planned my trip home. I was going to go via Griffith to say hello to everyone. This is to go back to Walgett. But I had to get fuel at Narrandera because that was the only Shell around here. So I planned to go Narrandera, then Griffith, then Walgett. But I had a huge tailwind out of Melbourne. It was just fantastic. So I didn't need to get fuel at all. So I just went straight to Griffith, said hello to everyone, and then off to Walgett. And then unfortunately after that, the new airworthiness directive came out saying that you had to wash the tanks out and all that. And that poor plane, because there was no laneys in Walgett, that plane sat there for a long time before anyone got round to do it. I felt a bit sorry for him. I mean, it wasn't my fault, but it was just sad that that happened to that plane. My next challenge with flying was having kids. That changed everything. I didn't fly for quite a while, or Guy flew us if we were going somewhere. But I couldn't bring myself to fly on my own with the kids. That just was too much, because I thought, you know, I can't help them, can't do anything, can't just stop like you can in the car. So it took me until we were here and we got the Cessna 182 that we've got now. It was about four years ago, yeah. And Paul Simmons was at Chimmet. They camped there for Christmas, New Year, for most years. And he rang me up and he said, why don't you come over and stay with us for the night and bring the kids in the 182? And I thought, well, that's a good idea because it's only a short flight, and I knew Chimmet well because we were helping the flying school over there. So I thought I'll do that. And they had tents and everything for us, so put the kids in and did the quick flight over, and it all went really well. And so that got me back into it, and then now I fly with kids all the time. And the easiest way to do it is put one in the back, one in the front, and give one the iPad to navigate, because then they can't fight.
It's just like a car.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And so my last challenge with flying was doing my formation endorsement, which I did. Now we camp in Chimmet every year with the Simmons. We took 3 of the planes over, the Skyfox, the Gazelle and the Jabiru. We took them over to Chimmet and did a week formation training to finish off my endorsement, and started off another pilot. And that was amazing. I thought I would never get it. It was just so scary being so close to another plane. I think Paul thought I was trying to get in his lap. Every time I was flying on this side, I was leaning on him, trying to get away from the other plane. But it's amazing how you get used to it all, and now I love being in close. It's so much easier if you stay in there. Paul teaches from formation from start up to shutdown, so that really makes you switched on right from the start. And I think it looks good. I've seen a few photos that people have taken. Actually, Toby took a good photo the other day when we went out to cleanse of our shadows on the ground. And that looked really good. And so that's about my story with aviation, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I haven't gone too long. That was